In this video, you'll learn how to use the SectionList component to render large lists by section and to create separate headers for each section. By this point, you should know that SectionList is similar to the flatlist component, with the exception that SectionList also has support for rendering section headers. Let's explore the array stored in the menu items to display component, which I've tweaked slightly from the previous examples. The array items are the same, but this time they've been grouped into categories. The categories are appetizers, main dishes, sides, and desserts. When I render this list, I want to display section headers for each of these categories. This is a perfect opportunity to use the SectionList component. The first thing I'll do is import the SectionList component from React Native. I have some components here from the previous examples that haven't been used yet. Specifically, I have the separator component, the footer component, the item component, and a menu items component. I'll place the SectionList component within the menu items component. The SectionList component, as I mentioned, is very similar to the flatlist component. It requires two properties. The first property which is required is the sections property. Now to the sections property, I'll pass the name of the array that contains all of the data. In this case, it's menu items to display. This is similar to the data property that you encountered in the flatlist component. Another required property is renderItem. This calls the render function that will render the entire item. I'll pass to this the renderItem function, which hasn't been created yet. So let's take care of that now. To do so, I'll create a component within menu items called renderItem that will contain item as the property, which is the array that contains all of the data. It will render the item component that I've previously created, and the name property for the item component will be that specific item itself. So to summarize what this code does, I'm passing the function renderItem to the renderItem component. This function will then parse through each item and call the item component. And within the item component, there is a view which displays the name of each item. In this case, the items are from the array within the menu items to display component. In addition to the renderItem, there are also section headers that I need to render. To do this, I'll add another prop in the section list called renderSectionHeader. And to this, I'll pass a function that is also called renderSectionHeader. I then need to create this function and have it take in the section. The section will be extracted as the titles in the array, such as the appetizers, main dishes, and so on. Next, I'll add a return method to render this information as the text that displays the titles. I also want to add some styling to this text, so I'll call in the existing section header style that is stored in my menu styles component. This style will set parameters such as background color, font size, and text alignment. All right, so now I have the basic section header component written. To summarize, what it does is take in the sections from the array, render each item from the menu using the renderItem method, and render each title object in the array as a section header. Let's check out how this appears on the emulator. You'll find that there is a header for Little Lemon, as well as section headers for appetizers and main dishes. The items are also listed under each header correctly. For example, the items under appetizer include hummus, falafel, and eggplant salad. The other sections appear as I scroll down the page. This is iOS emulator, and an interesting detail here is that when I scroll, each section header sticks to the top until I scroll to the next section. The app behaves slightly differently in Android, so let's jump over to an Android emulator to find out what changes. In Android, you'll notice that the header sizing is different. As I scroll, you'll also find that the section headers disappear as I move past and do not have the sticking action that is present in the iOS version. What this means is that the SectionList component renders natively for iOS and natively for Android to produce the native experience for each platform. You'll probably notice more subtle differences like this as you continue to develop in React Native and test your apps on different platforms. Let's finish up by adding a few more details to the section list, just like I did previously with flatlist. I'll create a separator component by adding an item separator component prop to SectionList. And to that, I'll add the separator line that I already created. I also want to add a footer, so to do that, I'll add the list footer component prop and pass it to the footer. Let's check these updates in the emulator once more. And there you go. The finished section list has separator lines between items and a footer at the bottom that displays copyright information. In this video, you learned how to use the section list component to render large lists by section. As part of this, you used the renderSectionHeader function to extract section header data from an array and render it as text. Additionally, you came to understand that SectionList is rendered natively across mobile platforms, leading to slightly different experiences depending on the device being used.